Most people think of ghost towns and picture the dusty desert, Body, California, Tombstone, Arizona. But the American South has its own forgotten places. Towns that once buzzed with industry, politics, and life. Now swallowed by pine forests, kudzu vines, and rising water. These aren't famous. You won't find them on a tourist map. But their stories are some of the most haunting in American history. Cahaba, Alabama. Cahaba, Alabama was once the state's first capital. In the 1820s, it had grand government buildings, a newspaper, merchants, ambition. Then the rivers turned against it. The Alabama and Cahaba rivers kept flooding, destroying crops and homes until politicians finally gave up and moved the capital to Tuscaloosa. By the Civil War, Cahaba was just a shadow, but that shadow grew darker. The Confederates turned it into a prison camp called Castle Morgan, cramming over 3,000 Union soldiers into a space built for 500. Disease spread. Men died. After the war, a final flood in 1865 ended the town for good. Today you can walk among crumbling columns and artesian wells still bubbling up from the ground. The last signs of a city that was once someone's great American dream. Rodney, Mississippi. In the early 1800s, Rodney, Mississippi was so prosperous it almost became the state capital. Flatboats lined the docks, cotton merchants built mansions. The town had every reason to believe it had a future. Then the Mississippi River changed course. When the river shifted, it left Rodney's port stranded in a swamp. No river, no trade. No trade, no town. Yellow fever epidemics made it worse. By the 20th century, everyone had gone. What remains is extraordinary. A Baptist church still standing, with a cannonball from a Civil War gunboat fight lodged in its wall. The woods have taken back nearly everything else. Rodney is one of the most hauntingly photogenic ghost towns in America, and almost no one knows it exists. Melrose, Tennessee. Melrose sits in the rural highlands of Tennessee, once a thriving hub built around iron furnaces and lime production. In the late 1800s, hundreds of workers and their families lived here. Then came cheaper steel from the north, better rail connections elsewhere, and the slow death of local industry. Melrose didn't burn. It didn't flood. It just quietly emptied. One family left, then another, until the land returned to forest. The lime kilns still stand. Massive stone structures, now monuments to forgotten labor. Shiloh, North Carolina. Not to be confused with the Civil War battlefield, Shiloh in Bertie County, North Carolina, was one of the earliest English settlements in what would become the United States, predating Jamestown for some historians' purposes. It served as a trade post with local Native American tribes and later as a colonial outpost. But it never grew into a city. It got bypassed by roads, by railroads, by the economic centers that pulled growth elsewhere. Today, the community exists in name only. A few historical markers stand near where the original settlement sat along the Chowan River. It's a place that should be in every American history textbook. It's in almost none. Ellaville, Georgia. Ellaville, Georgia isn't completely abandoned, but it might as well be. Once a busy sawmill and agricultural center in the 1800s, it's now a near ghost, with a population that has dwindled to under 200 people. What makes Ellaville worth mentioning isn't just its decline, it's how it declined. When the timber was exhausted, the mills closed. When the mills closed, the railroad stopped stopping. When the railroad stopped, the stores shuttered. It's a textbook example of a single industry town that had nothing to fall back on. You'll find this same story repeated across the rural South, just with different trees, different rivers, different names on the headstones.